What's going on guys, Kris here, and welcome to another Battlefield 5 gun guide. Today we're going to be checking out a German bolt action rifle, the Kar98k, which you can equip on a recon loadout after you've unlocked it at class rank 20. So the Kar98k was actually one of the last military rifles to be developed by Mauser, which had a pretty long line of models going back over many years. Of course, probably the most notable model would be the Gewehr 98, a German service rifle used throughout the First World War, which you'll probably be familiar with if you played Battlefield 1. But not long after the events of World War I in 1923, Mauser developed a newer version of that popular rifle for the German military, named the Kar98b, even though the Treaty of Versailles prohibited the Germans from making more rifles. Mauser bypassed this problem, however, by labelling his new gun as a carbine, despite the fact that it wasn't really a carbine and more like a straight upgrade from the Gewehr 98. Bit of a sneaky move. It was this weapon that would go on to be further developed in the future, eventually leading to the Kar98k in 1935, essentially having a slightly shorter barrel to help make it easier to wield and store. In no time at all after the Kar98k was designed, it was adopted by the German Wehrmacht as a standard issue rifle, remaining in service right up throughout World War II, until it all ended in 1945. The Kar98k was a 5-round bolt action rifle that utilised the same 8mm cartridge as the original Gewehr 98, and it saw action in pretty much all major theatres in the Second World War. Semi-auto rifles were becoming increasingly popular amongst the Allied forces as the war progressed, but the Germans were quite content with their trusty bolt actions, and it wasn't until the last year of the war when the Kar98k started to be phased out, in favour of a newer, much deadlier invention, the STG-44 assault rifle. With that said, the bolt action still played a vital role in the German army, as the STG was only produced in limited quantities, and once the war was over, millions of Kar98ks were captured by the Allies, spread out all over the world to help rearm international military forces. Now, as far as the stats go, the Kar98k isn't the deadliest gun in the recon class, but it's still got a pretty decent amount of power per shot compared to a lot of the others. It deals a maximum of 75 damage up to the range of 20 meters, which then starts to slope off over distance, reaching the minimum damage of 66 at the range of 60 meters. So just like a lot of the other rifles, the Kar98k is typically going to take down most enemies with 2 body shots over all distances, one if you can hit them in the head. If your target's already been weakened though, this can sometimes allow you to kill them with one single body shot, and with the gun having a slightly higher damage output overall than a few of the others, this is likely to happen a bit more often, giving you a bit of an advantage. It's not going to hit quite as hard as the Gewehr M95 within shorter sight lines, but just like with the M95, it can retain a slightly higher power over further distances, pretty much beating all of the others, giving it some decent damage figures across the board. Though with the Kar98k having one of the slowest fire rates of the bunch, shooting at the speed of just 48 RPM, it's not exactly a very aggressive gun that you'd want to go crazy with close to the front line, as you're going to be a bit more vulnerable in between shots. Fire rate can be boosted up to about 57 RPM with the machine bolt specialization, but this only puts it on par with a few of the others, not exactly anything special. Unless you're planting headshots left, right and centre, kill times aren't really very impressive, but because the gun's long range damage is a tad higher than average, this will often give it a bit more appeal to snipers and people who like to play a bit more defensively. As far as accuracy goes, the Kar98k's got the traditional bolt action rifle horizontal recoil figure of 0.1, which isn't really a big surprise with the others doing so too. Its vertical recoil, however, is a fair bit higher than average, kicking upwards at a value of 4 degrees. Not that this is really going to pose too many problems, as you're going to have to keep on scoping after every shot to cycle the bolt and rechamber the next round. So just like normal, the gun's recoil isn't really going to play a massive role in the weapon's precision, being a bolt action rifle. This heavier recoil might be a bit more noticeable if you're using iron sights, but although it sounds pretty nasty on paper, it's not going to be anything to worry about in most cases, as you'll have to reacquire your target after every shot anyway. The big thing that is going to impact your accuracy though, especially over further distances, is that bullet speed, and this happens to be one of the Kar98k's strongest aspects. With a muzzle velocity of 700 meters per second, it's got one of the highest bullet speeds in the class, matching up with the Krag Jorgensen, and pretty much beating all of the other base game bolt action rifles. Targets should be a bit easier to hit if they're running around far away, as you won't need to lead their movements quite as much as normal, with your bullets reaching them a little bit quicker. So this can often give the Kar98k a more accurate shot against moving enemies, and other snipers in the distance, strafing around to try and avoid your shots. A low drag round specialization can also be used with the gun, which isn't really going to affect the bullet's speed, but is going to make it seem even more suited for longer and extreme ranges, by flattening out your bullet's trajectory a bit, slightly affecting gravity on your shots. So if you see an enemy far into the distance, this might make it easier to hit them, with bullet drop being less of an issue. So the Kar98k is kinda similar to a lot of the other bolt action rifles when it comes down to reliability. It's a typical 5-round stripper clip loaded gun, though individual cartridges can be used to top the magazine back up if it's partially empty, no different to some of the others. 5 shots isn't exactly anything to go wild about, as although it's a fairly normal amount to have, it's still not going to keep you engaged in the action for very long. Which probably won't seem like a big deal if you're sniping, because you could always just hop behind some cover and shove a few more bullets back into the gun. But if you like to play aggressively, then this isn't really going to go into your favour, as you're likely to become vulnerable quite often in between gunfights, often meaning you'll have to rely on your trusty sidearm if you bite off more than you can chew. Performing a full fat 5-round clip reload is going to cost you about 3.76 seconds of your time, which is just a tiny bit longer than the Ross Mark III, a kind of average time in the overall picture. Though if you perform a tactical reload, so if you basically want to replace a few individual bullets without emptying the magazine, it's going to take anywhere between 3.1 to 4.6 seconds to slot in 1 to 4 rounds, meaning it's a little bit faster to replace a couple of bullets, but it'll generally be slower to replace more. But we're not over there, because if you've got a scope equipped, which most of the time you probably will have, then your clip reload's going to replace with a longer tactical reload, clocking in at 5.1 seconds to refill the mag up from empty to full. 1 second per bullet is really quite slow, and unfortunately there's no quick reload spec, so you're basically stuck with these times, potentially cutting down the Kar98k's reliability, and restricting its use in awkward situations quite a lot, once again making it more suitable for sniping and defensive play. Anyway, time to run over those specializations. First of all, you've got access to quick aim on the left and slings and swivels on the right. Both are going to benefit the Kar98k quite a lot in slightly different ways. Because you'll be scoping in and out after every shot, quick aim will probably seem like a pretty useful choice, especially if you're using longer ranged optics which tend to scope in a tiny bit slower. I find quick aim works well with the Kar98k when sniping, as you'll be able to get back down your sights quicker to fire off follow-up shots. With that said, slings and swivels can also be a good choice for switching to your sidearm quicker within shorter ranges, and with the Kar98k not exactly being the most reliable thing in the world, this option will give you a slight edge in sticky situations, where you need to get that pistol out ASAP. So although I'd slightly stray to using the quick aim spec, slings and swivels can also be a good one too. Next up, we've got the custom stock and machine bolt specs on the left, increasing fire rates and lowering the gun spread when moving whilst aiming, and on the opposite side, variable zeroing and low drag rounds. The left side is designed to help make up for the weapon's poor kill times and put it a little bit more in line with some of the others, making it a tiny bit more aggressive. The two on the right side are designed to fit in more so with snipers, but neither of them are really going to significantly improve the gun by a hell of a lot, with variable zeroing being countered by just simply aiming a tad higher, and with low drag rounds only being useful over extreme distances anyway. So although the gun's designed for long ranged engagements, I'd probably opt for the choices on the left, with the fire rate boost going quite nicely with the quick aim spec we picked earlier. Last of all, you'll be able to pick from the bayonet or the bipod, both viable options in their own certain ways. The bipod will often complement the Kar98k's defensive role in the game a little bit better, pretty much eliminating gun sway when you're aiming down sights, so this is probably going to seem like the best choice for most players. Though the bayonet can still be a good option when you're taken by surprise in close quarters, opening up more choices for taking on a nearby enemy without having to rely on your sidearm. So, in conclusion, the Kar98k is a bolt-action rifle designed with sniping in mind. It's got quite a lot of factors to strengthen its use over further distances, but at the same time, quite a few factors that can make it a tricky thing to use up close if you get caught off guard. Although it deals a reasonable amount of damage over all ranges, even within shorter sight lines, it's still going to take 2 shots to kill most enemies regardless, like most of the other recon guns. And with the Kar98k's fire rate generally being on the slower side, this makes it a bit less competitive here, easily being beaten by most of the other weapons in the game. The rifle can retain a little bit more of its damage over range, slightly better than a few of the other bolt actions, allowing it to deal more damage than average further away. This will sometimes let you take down weakened enemies more reliably, and with the gun having one of the more impressive bullet speeds in the class, this will also make it seem more suited for hitting those targets as they scurry around in the distance, trying to avoid your shots. The Kar98k can often feel easier to use for sniping for this reason, as although its kill times aren't anything special, it'll often feel more accurate because of that higher muzzle velocity, even though it's going to kick pretty hard after every shot. It's only got the capacity of 5 rounds, its reloads are generally quite sluggish, and they can't be improved with specializations, unlike a lot of the other rifles. So it's definitely not a fun gun to be wielding if you get caught with your pants down by an enemy flanking your position. This also means that it's not really a great choice for offensive players either, who prefer to rush forwards and take over objectives with brute force, once again making it a better defensive weapon rather than aggressive. It can still be effective over all ranges, but most of the other recon rifles can be more competitive within shorter sightlines, either by killing a tad quicker, or generally by being a bit more reliable. With the Kar98k having the edge over longer distances, by having a nice bunch of stats and specializations to better its use for sniping, it's definitely going to fit into the hands of anyone that likes to use a scope quite well, being one of the stronger choices in the game for engaging the enemy from far away. Anyway, that's just about it for another one, guys. Hope you enjoyed the guide. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe for more content coming soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you in that next episode.